Hi everyone, welcome back to the movie review mukbang series on our channel. This is the third episode, and yeah, we're on time. We're uploading weekly. This is a thing that's happening now. Today we have a very special surprise for you. Friend of the podcast, Ben Redacted, will be reviewing the new Ant-Man movie that Prosper and I have both definitely seen. And Ben is somewhat of an Ant-Man expert, self-described, and he's really gonna go through the movie and what he thought of it. And of course, we have Prosper, and then we have
Well,
me. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. But anyway, uh, Ben, if you want to take it away, uh,
it would be my pleasure. So, what makes me the qualified Ant-Man expert here is I saw the movie twice. The first time I saw it, I really liked it, and it was really, really fun, and I had nothing but good things to say about it. The second time I saw it with Prosper, and I came to realize that this movie has a lot of problems, and my first viewing of it was really not enough to get the whole picture of it. Um, Before this, I actually looked up a guide on Google on like how to properly review a movie because I wanted to talk about meaningful, relevant things related to it. So I'm going to go through as much as you guys are willing to let me talk about in that case. Um, I'm going to ask Prosper for his opinion at times because I know we talked about it a little bit, but my thoughts on this, for the most part, have not been really discussed that much. So starting with the plot. I was really excited for Quantumania. The trailer got me super excited for it. It got me really hype. The soundtrack that they used, The Yellow Brick Road by Elton John, was amazing. And I loved the footage that I saw. Just like Thor 4, I was really, really enthusiastic and optimistic for the film. But what I felt happened in both of those films, the trailers were really misleading. And the big thing with Quantumania is the fact that the trailer made it look like it was much darker than it actually was. The plot does follow Kang's escape from the quantum realm into, the time stream, but they really, really screwed up by revealing too much in the trailer and really not demonstrating what the real movie was going to be about for the most part. Now, the Kang arc that happens throughout this movie, that's taking the forefront here. But there's a secondary plot that kind of goes underneath it, and it's mostly about Scott Lang's family. There's the obvious one where he is finally getting to star with his, daughter in a movie. This is the first time we've really seen them interact to this extent or this much. We saw a little bit of Cassie Lang in Ant-Man 1, Ant-Man 2, but this time, she's a co-star. So that's going on. She's finally a part of the main cast now. And there's another really strong emphasis on bringing Scott's family, familial bloodline with Cassie, and his adopted family with the Van Dynes together. And at the beginning of the movie, they actually separate those two different parts of his family. So for a good chunk of the movie, it's just Scott and Cassie. And then for another good chunk of the movie, it's just the Van Dynes for the most part. And what we see throughout the movie is that they start together before they get sucked into the quantum realm. They get split apart for majority of the movie, and then they all come back together for the crescendo or the big last bit of that, So you have these two plots going on. And for the most part, I think they're juggled decently well. But something that I'll talk about a little bit later, that leads to a lot of tonal whiplash that I had some really big issues with. But before I get into that, I want to talk about some of the big themes of this movie, or at least what the perceived themes are going to be. So if you're watching this review, I'm assuming you already saw the movie. So I don't want to give a whole recap as to what happens. But there's three big ones that I've noticed. The first one, it's very evident in the beginning of the movie and towards the end of the movie. And it is mostly about Cassie's struggle with her dad in relation to his civic duty to be a superhero. In Ant-Man 1, Scott was a petty criminal, just like a lowly electrical engineer who did some crimes with good intention. He robbed a place that I don't remember what they were doing. I think they were stealing from their clients or conducting inhumane experiments, something of the sort. and he felt as if they were a worthy person to rob, kind of like Robin Hood for the most part, but much more comedic and much more lighthearted. You know, he doesn't use his Ant-Man powers really for good until Hank kind of makes him do it. You know, they kind of pressure him into taking in the helm of Ant-Man. You know, Ant-Man 2, it's fine. He wants to live a decently quiet life. Then he gets tangled up with some filler B plot for the most part. Nothing really spectacular happens. And then in Endgame, that's kind of when he really shows up and really leads with some heroicism, you know? But in this movie, he doesn't want any of that, you know? He's starting with the book tour at the beginning. He's reading to a bunch of kids, you know? He's kind of enjoying the celebrity of life now that he actually is a respected member of society, you know? And he's content with his place in the world. But his daughter is the exact opposite of that. We're introduced to her in the fact that she just got bailed from jail because she was being an activist and she was standing up for homeless people in San Francisco, you know? In the quantum realm, she is very much involved in the B plot of hosting the rebellion against Kang. And those two characters really personify activism versus inactivism in that case. I think it was way too on the nose, though. The dialogue was not very subtle at all. It really felt immature and childish the way it was written. It was very, very black or white. There was no gray area for interpretation. And it kind of just painted Cassie as the voice of reason and Scott kind of as a loser for really not wanting to get into it. You know? Regarding the trailer, one of the themes that I thought would be very, very relevant here was that Scott is portrayed as, quote unquote, a man out of time. You know? Who he is an ex-convict who was then stuck in the quantum realm for 5 years. You know, for a majority of Cassie's upbringing, he was not present. You know, so the angle that I thought they were going to go with was the fact that maybe what Kang was going to use for leverage against Ant-Man was he could give him more time with Cassie. You know, that could be the motivator that Kang uses to get Ant-Man to help him out. Instead, it's just a threat. You know, he just threatens to kill him. You know, normal bad guy stuff. Very one-dimensional, nothing really interesting or nothing unique to Kang. You know, you could have put any villain across any kind of comic book in that place, made that their threat, and it would be, you couldn't really tell the difference, you know? I really wish they went that route, but as I said, they didn't at all. And another thing that I really wish they leaned into was really expanding on Janet Van Dyne's survivor's guilt. A lot of the plot of this movie could have been circumvented if Janet Van Dyne communicated with her family properly. And the reason that she didn't is implied to be survivor's guilt. You know, she went through terrible things in the quantum realm. Allegedly, we don't really know what she went through because she won't talk about it. But the lines that the actress was given and her expressions in kind of giving us a window into what she experienced, I didn't feel as if they were adequate. I didn't really know what was going on. While they take the call, I'll keep talking, I suppose. You're good? Yeah? Are you guys calling each other? Or looks like it. Okay, I'll keep talking then in that case. No big deal. But yeah, I really felt like there wasn't too many themes going on for the most part. It was a plot-driven movie for the most part, and if the plot was better, I would be okay with that, I think. Regarding the tone of the movie, I mentioned earlier on, tonal whiplash was a pretty prevalent thing in this, and I think the best example of that is the contrast between Kang and MODOK in this case. I am not really a Marvel Comics person that much. I don't really know that much about MODOK or his origin. I know a lot of people love him. He has, you know, kind of a legacy to be a really goofy B-plot kind of character. It didn't work with having Kang be the big bad and MODOK be his lackey, you know? Again, the way that this movie was set up is that Kang is here for the next few years in the MCU. He's the next big bad, and putting him next to a fucking stretched out CGI face who floats around, I didn't really get it, you know? Before the reveal of his face, and he was just a mechanized, unidentified creature in a suit, I liked the introduction, you know? He was intent on killing, he was a mechanized masterpiece to do that kind of stuff. And then as soon as he took it off and he started talking about Ant-Man 1 related stuff, it really fell flat. His role, like a few of the rebels in the B plot as well, it's very painfully obvious that their sole intent in being on the movie was comedic relief. And given that I think this movie should have been framed in a much more dramatic kind of tone, it really didn't work for me at all. I think the best thing that represents that is the contrast between two of my, infamous and famous lines of the movie. The first one being when MODOK and Cassie are having their face-off at the climax of the movie, and Cassie basically gives MODOK the lesson of don't be a dick. That doesn't work in the finale of such a grandiose kind of movie like this. It just rips me out of it real hard, especially contrasted to how serious and how imposing Kang is supposed to be. He talks about burning people out of time. He's a very menacing person, and having MODOK there really detracted from that. And quite frankly, I don't know why he was in the movie. Like, I can't think of a valid theory or think of an idea as to why this was going to happen. But I've been talking for a bit. Prosper, do you have anything to add about anything I just said, considering it's been just a straight shot ramble for me in this case?
No, that's totally fine. I mean, you had a lot to say.
Not even halfway done. So get your piece in.
So MODOK, I mean, he was just there as the comedic relief. Funny. I mean, I didn't find him funny. I thought it was like way so much funny that it reset all the way back down at the bottom of the funny bar to the point where it was unfunny. The way they designed him, like his character, his everything, it was just not funny. Which was unfortunate. And then I think Kang is not a good villain so far as they've presented him, because we're getting two very different pictures of him. And I get they're different people across the multiverse, but the Kang we saw in Loki was more of a mental villain, if you will, because he used his knowledge. Exactly. He used his knowledge to trick female Loki into killing him, which is what he wanted. But he didn't do anything do anything physical, much like the previous three trilogies, phase trilogies, where Thanos, the first time we really see him on screen, he not only does he beat the Hulk, but he also kills Loki. So he's a very physical villain, right? Kang, you didn't get that image in Loki. You got, okay, he's very smart, he's very cunning, and he's going to use that to his advantage. We did not see that Kang in this movie. This guy was a clown. He was a buffoon. The fact that he somehow took over the fucking multiverse Amazon jungle was silly, because Ant-Man just beat him by literally turning big and running towards him. That's a good one. I think Spider-Man himself was able to deal with that by going all Star Wars AT-AT around the legs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would have preferred to have seen him trick Ant-Man into thinking that he won, but putting Kang in a better position. The only Kang we saw was he forced Ant-Man to do something he didn't want to do by threatening his daughter. We've seen a million villains do that. What I wanted to see was towards the end, Ant-Man in a position where he thought he won by beating Kang, but it's later revealed Kang is in a far better position than he was. We don't see that. We don't know if he dies or not, because he just gets sucked into the thing. But it's assumed he does, because the council's called and they're like, oh, he's gone, let's call everyone. But I don't see how that puts Kang into a stronger position. We know in Loki, Kang was in a stronger position because he said he would be if she killed him, and then she did, and then Loki, goes back and there's like statues of Kang everywhere, and it's like, oh, he was right. This, it's like he dies, and then Ant-Man's like, oh, but what if he said everything's terrible is going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. Let's not worry about it. Let's eat some silly cake. It was disappointing, and I don't think the Kang we saw in this movie was the same type of Kang we saw in the Loki TV show. I get they're two different people, but I want to see a general theme among the villains that shows that he's smart and cunning, and he doesn't win through physical action, but rather outsmarting his opponents by his superior knowledge of the multiverse, and then leveraging that against the Avengers.
Yeah. Do you think it would be like a bit unnerving, like just to see, like, because I'm assuming Kang is going to come back in like different forms too, like just like having to like you've seen him in other movies and then having to like look at the same face and then realize that it's like a different character. Like I feel like that just gets old after a while. I hope they don't just do that every movie now. That would be kind of boring.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really hard to say what direction they're going to go from here on out. Because again, I really think they should have gone a different direction. The trailer really imposed a very threatening and a very menacing, and as Prosper said, a very cunning image of Kang in all of our minds. It would not be unrealistic for somebody to believe that Scott dies just by looking at the trailers, you know? In fact, I was kind of hoping for that, you know? The Ant-Man trilogy before this installment is a very light-hearted subsection of the MCU. Low stakes, nothing too crazy, you know? It could have been very interesting to see such a lighthearted cast of characters be imposed against this absolute menace to the multiverse, and he just mops them, you know? I would like to see that in the next Avengers, like the first scene of the movie just being Kang pops out of nowhere and takes revenge on them or something like that. But I don't know. A bit of context on the director of this. I believe the director's name is Peyton Reed. He has done a few comedy movies in the past, which I'm not really familiar with. But one thing that I noticed is he actually was the director for 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, which I've really enjoyed. One of them being a fillery kind of episode in season 2, and the other one being the finale of season 2. And I think that those 2 Mandalorian episodes are a better example as to what kind of movies we can expect from him in the Avengers, given he will actually be directing the next Avengers movie as well. I'm not excited, personally.
So sure, though. I think The Mandalorian has a lot more creative freedom than Marvel movies do. Even though they're both owned by Disney, I think so. Kathleen Kennedy oversees Star Wars, and to my knowledge, with a lot of those Star Wars shows, she kind of lets the directors do what they want, and you can tell some Mandalorian episodes have different pacing, different director styles, and you can really see that shine. Every Marvel movie, you could tell me the since like I don't know, Age of Ultron. Every Marvel movie has looked like it's been the same director. There's been no diversity in terms of who's directing it, even though almost every movie, except for the main adventure Russo brothers films, has had a different director, right? But they're all very similar, and I think that's because, I mean, coming from the top down, they kind of are like, okay, this is what's going to happen. And it doesn't leave that much room for creative.
Well, Kevin Feige is literally the executive producer on every single movie, or at least one of them. So
Yeah.
that's
And
probably-
I've heard like a lot of people left after Avengers Endgame.
I see.
And a lot of people have said that Kevin Feige, whatever, he kind of has a grip on the films that, like, if he wants something done in a movie, it gets done. So it's to the point where, like, you know, there's no room for negotiation. I mean, I wouldn't say it's to the point where, like, directors can't have a say in how it goes and things like that, and writers can't write the scripts, but I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps going down this track that's currently going on. I don't think that this director has much control over the movie and is just trying their best. I mean, that movie looked like every other Marvel movie. I don't think from a direction standpoint there was anything different. There weren't any crazy cool shots. I mean, 90% of the movie was CGI. It was just a red and purple just hodgepodge of whatever. I actually throughout parts of the movie, I got John Carter vibes. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I haven't. No.
It's a very bad movie. But it's about a guy that goes to Mars and there's aliens and things like that. And I got that movie was like some of the shots and some of the scenes. I mean, landscapes and everything like that. Kind of was similar. It also tried to feel like an adventure movie too. I mentioned earlier that it felt like it was like a CGI multiverse Amazon, you know, because like when they first fall in, there's like wild multiverse creatures and things like that, and stuff like that. But at the same time, you know, the air was breathable. Like there was the drink that you could drink and then all of a sudden understand everyone.
The ooze, yes.
The ooze, yeah. And there was that silly character with all the holes. He just wanted holes. Yeah, I don't know. It was not great.
No. On the topic of not really blaming the director for the quality of an MCU movie, given external influences, one thing that I've started to become more aware of is the editing and the cinematography of something. And to be honest, you know, I'm not a movie expert, obviously. I don't know which responsibilities a director has versus a producer versus the screenwriters, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that I hated about this movie, about anything else, was I think this was the worst editing I've seen in any movie ever. Really? To the point where I got frustrated. For the first 2 of the 3 acts of the movie, there are less than a handful of scenes in where there are 2 characters definitively present in the same shot where you could see them talking to each other. I am convinced Michael Douglas, Hank Pym, was not present during the filming of this movie. There is not a single scene in the movie where he is shown talking with other characters in the background of the shot. Yeah. Maybe there was a health issue, or maybe there was a scheduling issue with him in particular. But this is an issue with every single character in the movie, except for the scenes with Scott and Cassie and Scott and Kang. You know, when you see shots of the Wasp and Janet talking, it's just a close-up of Janet's face and the back of it's Hope's face when she talks, and Janet's hair in the background. And it's so obvious by the fact that the hair doesn't move, the head doesn't move whatsoever. It's a fucking stand-in, you know? All of the dialogue in this movie is just a close-up shot of somebody. And it really tears me out of the scenery and the environment of this. Yeah. And that's what I feel as if is a partial responsibility of the director. If that is a signature of Peyton Reed, where it doesn't really feel like all the actors are even there, that's what I have a significant issue in. Yeah. Go for it, David. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, personally, I have not seen this movie, but I have a theory as to why that might be. So, assuming a lot of these shots were in like the multiverse or the quantum realm, if you will.
There you go.
I'm assuming there's a lot of CGI in the background, like pretty much the whole movie. And based off like the CGI workloads that we heard about for Marvel previously, it is kind of like a lot of work to just like put people in that kind of scene. So they might just like limit how many people they put in the scene just to like, because they probably had a very tight timeline based off how Marvel movies work. And they were like, you know what? We don't have enough time to finish this movie, so we're going to do one person at a time.
Yeah, I think that is very apparent. And a little note about that actually is I was reading some article just when I was looking for excuses as to why this movie was so fucking bad for my standards. They had to reshoot the final scene of the movie like a few weeks before it was being produced. It really feels like this movie was kind of just thrown together in a very chaotic way. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that it didn't feel fleshed out and it didn't feel very intentional. And in my opinion, that's the director's job, to make it feel like a cohesive project. Can you enlighten me, Prosper? Is that supposed to be the director's job, or am I casting blame on the wrong person here?
I mean, I think it varies from director to director. I think a good majority of directors will help edit the film. You know, they have people who do it, but you know, they watch over it and they make sure that it's becoming the vision that they want it to.
Mhm.
But I think most of the time, you know, filming happens, they wrap filming, and then they go into post production, and that can take anywhere from a couple months to a year.
Mhm.
So by the time the movie comes out, they filmed it like a year, if not longer ago, right?
Mm.
I mean, you're telling me they filmed scenes weeks before they released it. At that point, if you're slapping things together and duct taping them together, it's not going to come out coherent. I think post production is one of the most important things in a movie because um, if every movie was released side by its initial cut where they just put the scenes together, it'll look nothing like the final product. It takes a lot of editing, it takes a lot of cutting, it takes a lot of transformative art to really sculpt the movie that's already been filmed into a product in which can be put on the big screen.
Mhm.
That being said, a lot of this movie was CGI. In fact, I'm sure a significant portion of these scenes required no actors to even be in them. I'm just thinking of all the scenes where like Ant-Man was really big in Kang's I don't know what you want to call it, fortress,
Mhm.
his star fort. It I feel like 50% of the scenes, right, had no actors in it because they could just CGI it all. Especially
Right.
when they had all the quantum realm aliens running around shooting the light bulb people. It's like it's not none of those have real actors.
Right.
It's yeah. So I don't know. It wasn't. I agree. The editing was not there, and it didn't help the movie. But
No.
I mean, that was just one of the many problems with it too.
Yeah. One of the issues that you've brought up a few times already at this point, I just want to directly address now. Just the abundance of the CGI. When people talk about Marvel fatigue, this is the movie that I really felt it. And it's to the point where, at that point, just make an animated movie. If you're not going to have the actors live in a majority of the movie, I don't see why this couldn't have been to the same animation caliber as something like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or more recently, Puss in Boots 2. You know, I know Marvel actually has not really gone into animation that much, but we can look at their sister studio in Star Wars. We've seen with massive success the transition of Ahsoka Tano from animation to live action, and it was awesome. She's great in every piece of Star Wars media she's in now. Um, Maybe it would be a bit odd, and maybe you would turn away some of the audience by making Ant-Man 3 into an animated movie. But this was not the setting, and maybe just not the right time for Hollywood to approach this caliber of movie. I just don't think this was well thought out at all.
I think you bring up a lot of good points, though. I mean, this is Disney,
Mhm.
the animation company. And I think what you just said is actually a very cool idea. It would be really cool for an entry into the MCU that is canonical with all the rest of the movies to be animated. I
Yeah.
think that would be awesome because
It would
every
be
single
nice.
movie so far has been live action. It would be cool. It would be different. There's a lot more you can do with animation than you can with live action.
Oh,
Um,
speaking of which, if I could interrupt real quick,
Go for
there
it.
is a singular Marvel entry that does use animation,
What
and
if?
it's Marvel's What If.
Well,
Yeah.
there's two.
Um,
There's Groot.
I am Groot. That is correct. Banger. Love that
Yeah.
one.
I don't know. I don't know if what if is like,
Not really
you know what I
comparable.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause it's like, it's like fun stories that
Mhm.
they're not, I mean, you could say that, oh, they're part of the multiverse, but like, I think when the idea was conceived, it was just like, oh, it'd be cool if, what if, right?
Right.
And let's just
And
animate it.
yeah. And the cool thing about What If is you mentioned that animation allows you to show things that you can't see traditionally in media. What If Zombies was a thing? What if Ultron 1 was a thing? These are, if you tried to make live action Marvel Zombies, it wouldn't pan out as well as it did in the animation, This film, hell, even maybe Moon Knight, I really feel like would have benefited from some form of an animated storytelling method. But hey, that's not what we got, so no point in talking about it that much, I suppose.
Yeah, I feel like they're kind of like what they're doing and what they've been doing is just in between live action and animation, and like in some ways, like I feel like some of the better Marvel movies, like I don't know, especially if people are feeling fatigued, like you're saying, Ben, it might make sense to like use more practical effects. I know they have relationships with a lot of these CGI studios.
Yeah,
I think the audiences generally appreciate practical effects because they require a bit more like not necessarily effort, but like you really need to like build a set or something like that, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's something I would like to see moving forward.
There's also an element of timelessness to those, right? If you go back and watch Jurassic Park, it still holds up. The very first Jurassic Park, which came out, I believe, in the early 90s, it still holds up 30 years later. If you go and you watch the George Lucas remastered Star Wars Episode 4, where they add the giant, whatever, and they make Jabba the Hutt CGI, it doesn't hold up at all. But if you watch the original New Hope, where they had a costume Jabba the Hutt, holds up perfectly fine. And I mean, if we go back and look at some of the early Marvel movies, that's the case too. I think the first Avengers looks terrible. But also, I think, it's because it was the CGI looks terrible. I think the way that they shot that movie is very different from the way they shoot movies now. Yeah. That movie felt like an action movie. Most of the Marvel movies now do not feel like an action movie. I think a large part of that is the precedent of comedy relief. In an action movie, you can't have comedy relief. If you remember the first Avengers, there would be some jokes, but it was like quips back and forth between the team members, right? It wasn't some like fourth wall kind of joke that they were aiming for. Not saying that Ant-Man had very, fourth wall breaks, but like the jokes were intended to make us laugh, not make the other characters in the movie laugh, right? In the first Avengers, it's all action. They film in action. There's a sense of seriousness. There's a sense of weight. I think all the comedy kind of pulls all of that out. While it may work to sell more, movie tickets, and it might overall help the vibe be more like, maybe child friendly or reach the market they want to, it removes an element of action movies that you only get if there's a sense of seriousness, if there's a sense of weight to people's emotions in the movies. Yeah. I mean, this movie kind of had it with Kang, holding Cassie hostage. It wasn't really there, because, I mean, going throughout the movie, I kind of knew everything would turn out okay because it's a Marvel movie, a recent Marvel movie, I should say. So I know you went in hoping that Ant-Man would die and maybe thinking that he would die. I went into the movie knowing that every character in this movie is going to walk out perfectly fine. In fact, the villain might not even die because it's a Marvel movie. The villains just do not die now.
Prosper, they're only allowed to die when their contract with Marvel expires.
Exactly.
And they're too expensive to renew.
Exactly.
I think there were only 3 named character fatalities in this movie. It was MODOK, it was Krylar, and it was the headcanon guy who got exploded in the final fight.
Not the headcanon guy.
But the point that you made about more recent movies not really conveying too much significant emotion in it, I actually want to draw a parallel to what I believe I remember is David's favorite MCU entry, Doctor Strange. I saw Doctor Strange recently. You have the little necklace and the pendant thing.
Well, I bought that
in your room. It's your favorite. I associate Doctor Strange with you. I don't know what to tell you, dude. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. You lied to me, I guess.
Say it's my favorite. Just
yeah. That is your favorite movie, definitively.
What's definitively his favorite movie?
Doctor Strange. The original one.
Yeah.
But I watched Doctor Strange recently, And maybe it's just because Benedict Cumberbatch is, like an S tier actor. Uh, there was more emotional weight in Doctor Strange than there was in Quantumania, 10 times over. Um, Stephen Strange loses control of his hands. He's a narcissistic, world-renowned neurosurgeon. To him, that is his livelihood. That is all he has. It's taken away from him in an instant. And the rest of the movie is him dealing with intense grief and agony and torture over it. You see this character break down multiple times. You see him wrestle with, the reality of the situation, and you see him kind of go through, all 5 stages of grief in this case. And again, this is kind of Kang's big reveal. They're going to be building up to him for years to come at this point. I didn't have any emotional moments for any point in this movie whatsoever. There is one thing I want to talk about that usually supplements these emotional moments, and that's actually the scoring and the music of this movie. And holy shit, I could not even hum to you a single melody, a single motif of this movie. There's nothing memorable about this. And in, for lack of better words, in epic MCU moments, like the portal scene in Endgame, you can associate a score with it. The Avengers assembling and stuff like that.
I've got playing right in my head right now.
Exactly. You know what the Avengers sounds like. You know what Iron Man sounds like. He's always accompanied by an electric guitar. Captain America has the horns and a hopeful kind of feeling to it. The Avengers is very orchestral and paramount. The Guardians has a whole goddamn mixtape, and it's amazing. Two, I associate that era's music with that movie now. It's succeeded in setting the tone and setting the theme for that. And in Black Panther, they just introduced new sounds that we've never heard before, and it's beautiful. I love it. When Black Panther came out in 2018, like half of its OST was in my Spotify Wrapped, like most played. It was awesome. Mm-hmm. What is Ant-Man's theme? What is Kang's theme? I couldn't tell you.
No.
Yeah. To be fair, other MCU characters don't have a distinguished sound. I don't know what Doctor Strange's theme is. Spider-Man is usually associated with like punky pop kind of music, but he doesn't have something definitive. But the music was so bland in this. It never really even suggested what kind of emotions I could feel or should feel at a given moment. I don't know. I want to talk about characters next, but I want you to have an opportunity to speak on anything that I just said, Prosper, if you have anything.
No, I think you said it eloquently enough. I don't remember a single theme. I don't even remember there being music playing in the movie.
Good point.
I just might be having a lapse. I can't remember any music in that movie whatsoever. Not even a song that they sang, not even a song that they were talking about. Nothing. I cannot hear all I hear is the dialogue, the very stale dialogue.
I will say that the trailer's music with Yellow Brick Road by Elton John, that was the best music I've ever heard in a trailer, So it really set my expectations for that, and I don't know, I must have just I don't remember anything from the movie. It's kind of sad.
Not even in the final battle when it's Scott versus Kang. I don't remember any music playing in the background, or not even music, but like just like a back tone of like urgency, right? Like if you remember, I have it playing in my head right now. If you remember in Endgame when Tony Stark runs up and grabs the gauntlet, and then Thanos throws him off, but he like secretly took the gems, right? Yeah. It was like a building thing, and then he snapped, and then it cut, and then it went back to, and it just like, you know what I mean? The music
and stopped. Silence until the snap happens, and that is how you use music appropriately in a movie. But
and I don't remember any of that in Ant-Man.
No, I don't want to remember anything from Ant-Man. It's okay. I want to talk about the characters, and I kind of just want to blitz through this, just address them, talk about the acting, and then talk about the character for the most part. I'll start with Scott. Paul Rudd is an awesome actor. When he's on the bill, you kind of know what you're getting from him, I really liked him in all of the MCU movies so far. Admittedly, I haven't seen too much of his of his work. I think I saw him in Anchorman, and I liked it.
It's all rom-coms. It's
Yeah,
all like early 2000s rom-coms.
He's usually in movies that I would not see. You know,
Yeah.
this is not I'm not the demographic for his movies. I like him as Ant-Man. That being said, I think tonally he was a bit lost in this movie. Normally he's the quippy, funny guy, you know, like in Captain America: Civil War. You know, he's a joke character. You know, he gets knocked down when he's full power. You know, anybody got any orange slices? You know, he mixes up sentences when he's meeting Captain America, stuff like that. You know, he's not really funny in this one. You know, but he's also not acting his heart out. That really conveys the gravitas of the situation. You know. I just think they mischaracterized Ant-Man in this movie, despite that I like the character Ant-Man so far. Cassie Lang is not a good character, and I don't like the actress very much. I felt as if her dialogue was very cheesy, and her delivery was a little, I guess, for lack of a better term, forced. I didn't really get any subtlety in her acting. I don't really know how to describe it beyond that, because I've never really had to put these kinds of feelings into words, but I just didn't feel as if she was on the same... She's not a similar caliber of actress as other people were on this bill. And I think it really showed, given she was given the spotlight, and I don't think she shined as much as we expected her to. Mm-hmm. Regarding her character, I really hated the way that she spoke to Scott in this movie. She was so inexplicably combative towards him and so aggressive and hostile. And it relates to the theme that I talked about of, you know, Ant-Man not living up to his civic duties and the activism. But that's not explained well enough to explain her sass in the first act, you know, or how mean she is throughout the whole movie, you know. I just really feel like she flopped, honestly. And I don't have any ideas as to what could have been done better with her. I'm just really disappointed. I don't know why. Regarding Janet, I really wanted the survivor's guilt that I mentioned earlier to be much more prevalent in her delivery. And, you know, I don't know Michelle Pfeiffer's work either, for the most part. I don't know what she's capable of, but I feel like she just kind of has the same expression the entire movie. Just shocked, or yeah, what Prosper's doing, exactly. And
her mouth is literally open.
Yeah,
the entire movie, like being like, "Oh, I can't believe I'm back here."
I really like the way she delivers lines. I just don't think she was given very good lines, and I don't think her character was written well either. Same could be said about Hope. She had nothing to do in this movie whatsoever, and it's a shame because I really liked her in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think Evangeline Lilly is really cool. I really want to see more of her, and she just got nothing in this movie. You know, she had 1 or 2 action scenes in total. I think you can count the number of times she spoke on 2 hands. You know,
she had no. She could have been out of the movie, and it wouldn't have changed anything.
She had no business being in the movie, and that's a shame.
They gave her the bit at the end where she shot Kang, and that's it.
And when she saved him from the probability storm too, you know, reached out for the hand. She's cool. I like her. She's an awesome character. But they
You said that they reshot the last scenes, those scenes. I wonder if it's because they gave her that part, just so they're like, oh, they watched the movie and they're like, oh, we didn't let her do anything. No.
So here's the rumor. Apparently, the movie was supposed to end with Scott and Hope trapped in the quantum realm. They were never supposed to escape it. So they were reshooting the restaurant scene at the end, and you know him walking, and you know everything being okay, you know. But then the existential crisis creeps up again.
I got you.
She was always supposed to come back, but then they were supposed to get trapped. But regardless, Michael Douglas is awesome. I just really think that the fact that you could not see him in a scene with another person took away from that a significant amount. I liked his transformation from the first movie to the third movie, going from a very protective and crabby old man to be a kind of jovial, carefree grandfather, you know, very supportive of Cassie, very nonchalant about things, and kind of just walking in to the final battle in the third act just so casually, you know.
I mean, literally walking in though.
Yeah.
he just stood there.
And you know what? Given what happened, you know, I wish it didn't play out the way it did. I think that his character played off of those, what was happening very well, in my opinion.
Mhm.
I just would have liked to see him live with some other people. Um, the last character I want to talk about is Kang. Right now, this is dating when this is being filmed right now. There's two significant names in Hollywood right now. The first one is Pedro Pascal, and the second one is Jonathan Majors. And Jonathan Majors is awesome. My first time seeing him, and my only time seeing him before this movie, was his cameo in Loki. I loved it so much. I didn't know what to expect from his character. I just loved how he handled it. I watched some interviews after the fact to see where he drew his inspiration from. And man, it's just so refreshing to see him play that character in Loki, He Who Remains. And Quantumania, if it shows anything, it shows his amazing range. He is awesome as Kang. He can really bring the intimidation and just the fear of that character to life. They kind of just fucked up his character significantly. The two big issues that I had was him not giving Scott the ability to have more time with Cassie. His decision to double cross him and not free him and not free Cassie. He had no reason to do that. He just made a definitive enemy of Scott for absolutely no reason. You could attribute it to ego or something like that, but that's not really something that we've seen from that character before to warrant that kind of action. It was out of left field. And the other thing that really bothered me is that he had a very inconsistent power level in this movie. And when I watched the movie the first time with my girlfriend, she made note of that, in the fact that Kang has control over gravity and levitation. He turns Cassie and Scott sideways at his whim, slams them in the walls. He has disintegration rays that just blinks people out of existence in the final fight. And what does he do to the heroes when they're all lined up in their cinematic shot facing him? Doesn't use anything. They really botched how intimidating Kang could be, and I'm very scared that they're going to waste this talent that is Jonathan Majors. I want to see him in more MCU work. I don't necessarily want to see Kang anymore. And given I'm kind of a Marvel shill, that's a really damning thing for me to say. I don't care about the variants that were in the 3 post-credit scenes, I know who they are. I know their backstory from YouTube videos, I just don't think they're going to treat this character with respect. And that's a shame, because they really knocked out of the park with this casting. But
yeah,
do you want to give your thoughts on the characters, Prosper?
No, I think you agree. Jonathan Majors, he's an amazing talent. If you want to see him outside the MCU, I think The Harder They Fall, it's on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
One of the best westerns of all time. That movie is just simply amazing, and he's amazing in it. I'm trying to think. Creed 3 just came out.
I
haven't seen it yet, but I've heard phenomenal things about it. They said people are saying it's like the best installment in the Rocky universe since Rocky.
Do you want to go this weekend?
I cannot, unfortunately, but we'll worry about that later.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, Creed 3's out. I'm trying to think of anything else that he's in.
He's a newer actor. He doesn't have a huge catalog.
He was in Devotion, which is also a pretty good film. It's on Paramount Plus. I saw it. That's why
is
that
movie.
That the
fighter movie? I know he's in a.
Yeah, it takes place during the Korean War. Yeah. That was a good movie too. A really strong movie. It's similar to other war movies of that type.
Okay.
But it was a good story, and it's a true story too. Just incredible. But those are 3 movies I would definitely recommend, just so you can see the range he brings to the screen, because it's huge. Yeah. The character in The Harder They Fall, to the character in Devotion, to the character in Creed 3, to even the character in Loki and Ant-Man 3, all very different characters, and it's incredible range. And yeah, I think so far the MCU has really not done a great job with him. I'll agree with you on that one, definitely.
It's a bit of a shame. I think that's all I really had to say about the movie. I think if I had to give some closing thoughts about it, is This is the biggest misalignment I've had with the MCU entry regarding the expectation and how I actually feel about it. Before this movie, I thought Thor Ragnarok was my least favorite. Or, not Ragnarok, sorry, that was great. I thought Thor 4 was the worst entry in the MCU. I don't know which one is worse, and that's still not a good thing for me to be saying.
It's that bad? Is on that level?
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's rough.
Oh my god.
The kind of character sabotage they did with somebody like, Gore the God Butcher was on parallel with just the sabotage they did for multiple characters in this movie. I can't really remember what I saw in this movie the first time I watched it. I can't remember why I liked it. I think it's just because I really liked the idea of Kang. I came into this movie wanting to like it, so I had the expectation that it would be good, and, well, that was a fucking mistake. Let me tell you that. So
Yeah.
You're gonna get demonetized, Ben.
I mean,
it's okay. We're not making money anyways, right? So.
God damn. I mean, Ben was sitting by me in the theater when they showed what was his
MODOK.
name? Gavin? Yeah,
Gavin?
MODOK. What's his
Oh,
name?
yeah.
Darren, that's it.
Darren Cross, yes.
Yeah, they were showing Darren again as MODOK, and
I think I face palmed.
I felt bad because I felt like I was interrupting other people's movies experience with my like laughter of pain. It was more like a cry laughter. Like, this is seriously something I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
I mean, just going back all the way to like the seriousness that the original Marvel movies took. One of the most famous speeches, I think, in most movies is Nick Fury's speech in the first Avengers. His "There Was an Idea" speech. This just does not feel like the same universe that speech was in, that movie was in. They call it the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think there is a very clear break.
It's the multiverse. It's not comparable, unfortunately. But
It's
maybe the multiverse is like a kind of catch-all for all the bad movies, and then they can say, "Oh, it's like, it's in a different universe." That didn't happen.
Yeah, it's just like they did with Star Wars and categorizing some of their IP as legends and non-canon. I think they're going to look back at the MCU in 10, 20 years and probably de-canon this trilogy. But I really hope they do, because this was actually painful.
I feel like, just as a closing thought, I feel like every new Marvel movie is trying to add a new, younger character so they can get the Young Avengers.
Yeah, that's what they're doing with Cassie. She's going to be Stature, I think is her comic book name.
And Gore's daughter. Gore's daughter.
Yes, her name is Love.
Yeah.
Love and Thunder. Oh, look at that.
That'll be the young Thor. Yeah. And then, from Black Panther 2, we've got the Iron Man lady.
Ironheart, yeah.
Ironheart, there you go. So I feel like now they're every movie. What's the next one coming out? Guardians of the Galaxy? Expect to see...
Don't say anything. I cannot afford to not like that
James
movie.
Gunn, and I think the only way they let him back in is if he had creative control over that movie. So we may not see it there. But what's the next movie after that one?
So I know there's a TV show coming out after that. It's Secret Invasion.
Oh, the Marvels, right?
The Marvels is next movie.
They have Miss Marvel already, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm taking a look real quick.
I think at that point we're getting away from Ant-Man, Quantumanium, which, by the way, as I was talking to Ben, I didn't realize Quantumanium has the word ant and man in it.
And they did not use it for branding.
They did not use it for branding, but they used it at the end of the movie, which was really weird.
That's a far cry from the amazing, legendary advertisement for the first Ant-Man movie. If you know what I'm talking about. Yes, ants.
That was good.
Yes.
But
you'll search
I
it up
think,
if you haven't seen it.
yeah, I think the next relevant MCU piece of media that's coming out that links Kang or Kang adjacent things is Loki season 2. That's coming out allegedly this summer. I loved Loki season 1. I hope they do some redeeming of the character in this one.
Wow.
But we will see. But yeah, that's my thoughts. Wow,
Wow.
that was fucking terrible. You want to close this out, David? Any last words for either of you, though?
Yeah, well, thank you both. Yeah, I was kind of, I mean, obviously I haven't seen the movie,
Oh,
but
you haven't? Wow,
no, I
that's a
haven't.
surprise.
Yeah, I thought I made that clear.
Oh, you did, but I don't know. I kind of fell for it for a bit, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no,
You had some really compelling points
I'm a
there.
Wait,
little
you
bit,
haven't seen the movie?
I'm a bit of a prankster, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
you're just like that one guy in the movie.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I was expecting a bit more, based off what you're saying. So I'm a little disappointed in this movie.
There were a lot of ants in the movie.
Okay, like, was there a scene where like he summoned like a bunch of ants?
There were so many ants, dude.
There were a lot of ants at the
Okay,
end.
maybe I
Yeah.
do need to see this movie then.
I would say, I'm not saying there were too many ants, but some people could think that there may have been too many ants in the
Well,
Ant-Man movie.
I mean, some would say, there's never enough ants, and that
Some
I
maybe
would
don't
not.
know.
say there were a lot more ants in this movie than there were in Ant-Man 2. There were almost no ants in Ant-Man 2, as far as I recall. The only time I remember ants in
Yeah.
Ant-Man 2 was when they were building the portal that took you down into the
Yeah.
quantum realm. I don't remember
Yeah.
a lot of ants. There were a lot of ants in Ant-Man 1, and there were a lot of ants in Ant-Man 3. I think Ant-Man 2 is the only movie where there is an ant shortage.
Yeah, the
That is
economy
true.
was down that year.
Not enough ants, not enough wasps, and not enough Quantumania.
I-
Or, you know what? Too much Quantumania. I don't want to see that movie again.
Quantumania, more like
Yeah.
Quantumlamia.
That's
And
a good
on
one.
that note, I think it's time to close us out. Thank you again for watching. I think Prosper and I finished our food like 20 minutes in.
Yeah.
But
I'm very excited to start my food now.
wait, you had
Looking
food
forward to
too?
it.
Oh my gosh.
David,
Bro,
I
that
was
looks like a
talking for the last
stack
hour and a
burger.
half.
Yeah, I mean, you could
No, that was Fuel and Fuddle, isn't it?
That is Fuel and Fuddle. Looking
Yeah,
forward
it's
to
like
it.
Fuel and
sponsored
Fuddle.
by Fuel and Fuddle on the
We're
University
not
of
sponsored
Pittsburgh
by.
campus.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thank you all
We
for
kind of
watching.
just yeah.
Bye.
No, I definitely did not. I did not do my research coming onto this talk show.
Friend of the podcast, Danny Scout.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm
Welcome,